No, I'm fine. I'm fine.
You're good to go.
Okay, thank you very much, Melanie. And thank you for being here, everyone who's here. I appreciate it. With me is Jen Pollard. She's the grants administrator for Citrus County Housing Services. We're not community housing, we are a local county government division under the Department of Community Services. And we serve at the will of the Board of County Commissioners. So we have many different contracts and grants and things that we provide. And some of it you'll be familiar with, and some of it maybe not so much. So we can let this flow however you all want, but I want to point out the handouts that I'm giving you. I'm going to start out with this one. It's our talking points, and it has Citrus County Housing Services at the top. On this page is all the programs I currently have, with one exception, one that I don't have right now, but I'm always trying to get. So I'll talk about that when I get to it. But the first one to let you know about is the Neighborhood Stabilization Program, and I hope you've all heard of that. Is there anyone here who hasn't heard about Neighborhood Stabilization?
Oh, goodness.
One, okay.
I'm brand new.
That's okay.
All right.
Then this is
I've
good
heard
news.
the name, but I don't really.
You don't know what it is.
I
It's
mean,
good that you're here then. This
You
is
bet.
important. One of our community partners and our contracted realtor of record for that is Cheryl Lambert, who's here today. She's been with us for over 2 years, providing services for us on that. We do go out for bid or proposals. We did that recently in one way? Only way.
Oh, there you
I'm
go.
sorry, I can never remember.
I guess it could be one way.
One
too,
way,
right?
your way is the highway, realty. There,
Either way you look at it, it'll be the only way to do it.
Ah, there we go.
So, we're glad to have those folks here today. But we did recently go out for proposals and have signed a contract with them, correct? Is that who on the board? We're all
Yeah.
set with that, okay. Neighborhood Stabilization Program started out in 2009 or so, 2010. We were awarded $2.1 million from the Florida Department of Community Affairs, which is now known as DEO, Department of Economic Opportunity, I'm sorry. And we got those funds, and they hadn't really touched it. I came on board with housing several months after that, and they hadn't even set up a budget or anything, and weren't really sure what the model was going to look like. It was described by the head of DEO that this program was federal dollars for the first time, where they had to build the program like fixing a plane in the air or building a plane in the air, because they had never done before. The funds were specifically to purchase bank-owned foreclosed homes in areas that had the greatest need, rehab them and either resell them, or at least 25% of those dollars had to go towards homes that provided affordable rentals in our community. In Citrus County, $2.1 million is a lot of little houses. That's a lot to work with. So that was a great thing. So I had recently started with housing services, and we didn't have a model yet on how we were going to do that, and we were looking at possibly going out for consultants and having a nonprofit or somebody provide those services where they would purchase the house, do the rehab, and we would reimburse them. Well, the clock was ticking and we didn't have time to do that. I was fortunate that at the time we had Gary Madoff on board at the county. He's no longer with us. He actually passed away, but many of you may know him historically. He was with the county, I think, 30 years or something like that. Great resource. And he and our attorney at the time, Richard Wesch, were able to create and craft an administrative regulation in a county ordinance, where it allowed me as the housing services manager to work these deals myself directly and just get right in and start buying the properties. I'm able to spend money on all my other grants with my signature. Why not this one? It was just a little different. And something the county had never entertained was actually buying housing. We didn't own anything prior to that regarding to provide housing directly to people. We always did owner assistance, where we help someone rehab their home or buy a home or build or whatever it was. So that was really exciting, and I was able to do that. I spent a lot of time there on Saturdays and things, making deals go through. At the time, Tamika with Landmark was one of the primary providers of these listings that I was looking for, and the areas of greatest need were in Beverly Hills, Citrus Springs, and Inverness Highlands. So we bought many homes quickly, did some rehab. The funds went out to, the banks or whatever, but we use local realtors, title companies, contractors. The money ended up coming right back into our community, which is what it was designed to do. So then we rehabbed them to a very high standard. We had a contract specs book where we're doing double pane windows, doing them green, and doing hard surfaces for the most part, so people wouldn't have maintenance on these. Typically doing the roof if it even looked close to needing it, HVAC if it even looked close to needing it, hot water tanks. We don't want these houses back, and we didn't want people to have issues with maintenance once they were in them because of the income levels, which I'll go over in a moment. So we did that. We bought a bunch of properties. Because we spent our first $2.1 million very quickly and before the deadline, then we were awarded, we were only one of 3 municipalities that were awarded more funds from the state, and we got another $823,000. So that brought us up to close to $3 million. So we had to buy more houses. So we quickly bought, I think I got another 8 or so with that. And those all had to be affordable rentals. Those funds were recaptured from other communities who hadn't done their job. They hadn't figured out how to build the plane in the air and do that, and they gave up funds. And us and 2 big counties down in Miami area got the recaptured funds, but we were the only little county that got reallocation. So we're on the map for that. We are a model in the state that other counties are calling us and looking at how we do things. The state is consistently giving out the agreements that we have and proposals in our templates, which we're proud of and we're always tweaking, and Jen's always happy to share information. So that happened. We then, there was another act, wasn't our money, there was another act of funds federally where they put more money towards neighborhood stabilization throughout the country. And we were awarded $1,005,084 directly from HUD. It didn't pass through the state. We've done a good job. That was great. We're not an entitlement community, and that's entitlement in this case means when you're a community that's large enough to get the funds directly from HUD, you don't have to go through the state. Well, that was the first time that it happened for us. So we were excited about that. So now I'm at $3.99 million coming into Little Citrus County to buy up all these little foreclosures that at the time were going anywhere from $18,000 to about $40,000. Some I spent more on, like in Citrus Springs. We had some bigger family homes that were in pretty good condition, didn't need much rehab, so I'd spend a little more on those and some in Inverness. But in the end, when we got that $1 million, they said we really need to focus your area. We want to see a neighborhood actually get stabilized, because the way it was set up originally, it was too scattered site, and that wasn't occurring. So they gave us a tool, a mapping tool, and we figured that all out, and it was obvious that it was going to be Beverly Hills. That's where I had enough foreclosures for the right price that I could actually make a difference. I think we have, and that'll get demonstrated shortly. But we did say, all right, our area of greatest need is the older section of Beverly Hills. So I went from about S.J. Kellner out to 491, and as far over as Star Jasmine, Oakwood Village, and then back to like where the circle is, okay? So that's our area of greatest need right now. We haven't had to change that. We're actually one of the only communities that I know of that hasn't had to change their area of greatest need, which is good and bad. That means there's still more foreclosures that have been coming up. So as we bought these houses, I was scheduled to buy about 9 with those funds. And the original grant, the original $2 million was supposed to be 10 or something. Anyway, we're supposed to get about 21 houses. We're in the process today of buying our 51st house in Citrus County, so we're excited about that. And our 50th home we got about a month ago, and we're trying to make that one a big splash. We're going to have it on the Chronicle and things like that tomorrow morning. Wow, it's all come so quick. Tomorrow morning we're actually partnering with Fire Services where they're going to do a training exercise there, because they came to us and said, you know, when there's a fire in a Beverly Hills house, we never really have a house to play with and train on, so they're going to do a faux smoke thing and all that. So we're excited about that. We're looking to partner with one of our homeless shelters where they get donated brand new vanities and sinks and things like that. I want to get them to help out and give us some of their materials so we can keep the cost down of renovation. And the Chronicle's following this. And what other partnership did I have? I can't remember. There was one other thing that I'm forgetting. But anyway, that's our 50th house. And that is at, what? 22 North Osceola Street. and it kind of overlooks that church there. So if you ever go by that, that one's gonna be kind of cool when we're done, we're excited. So that's where we are with NSP. How this plays with you guys is, if you have foreclosures that are in the area of greatest need, you can certainly bring those to our attention. We consistently are looking at the HomePath website. I do have 15-day first look of, like right of refusal, and supposedly can see it before investors and things of that nature. I will tell you, and this has been our mantra since the beginning, I'm not going to compete with the private sector. If you've got a buyer who's willing to buy that and fix that house, I'm going to back off. I'm not going to put a bid on it, or if I already have one and you think you have a buyer, I'll definitely step back. I want to buy the ones that nobody wants, and believe me, that's what we end up with. They're pretty bad. So, we're willing to put the money in to elevate the level of what they're going to sell for. Right now, we did give you all our listings. I'm sorry they're not all beautiful in color. We don't have those sort of resources at the county. Well, we do, but we're not going to waste them on. You guys can all look this up. But those are the properties right now that we have available for you. They typically were bought in the $20,000 to $25,000 range, maybe up to $40,000 in rehab, sometimes more, sometimes less. And now you can see the values are ranging anywhere from high 40s to 60. I actually had one sell on the corner of Rose and DeSoto.
Yes.
The screen house?
Yep.
The screen issue house. That one sold for $70,000 about a month or two ago. 2 months ago? Yeah. So that was huge for something right there in the pocket to sell for that amount. But how it works is, obviously nobody's going to want to buy a house for that level of money when the one next door is only worth 40. So how do we combat that? Well, our buyers, the eligibility, how it works is they can be up to 140% of area median income. So in Citrus County, that would mean 120%, not 140, I'm sorry, 120% of AMI. For a household of two, that would be an income of $44,640 annually. Household of three, $50,000. You get up to four, it's $56,000 or close to it. This is on our website, but Jen can always make it available to you. We don't have it on the handouts because it changes every time HUD updates their income levels, which this year they just updated them last week, which was very unusual to do that mid-year. But we have that reflected in there.
I think it's actually in the brochure.
Oh, goody, I forgot about this. Jen has made up the
In
key
color.
to home ownership. That's in color.
I cheated.
Yes, that's in color. So there's your income levels, and yes, they have the new, well, they did they change for you?
No.
Not on 120, it was
No.
low incomes that changed. So, what can happen is, if somebody has to be able to get a first mortgage on their own, so they may need credit counseling before they can get to that point, or they may be all set to go. If they can only get a mortgage for, say, $50,000, and the house that's appropriate for them is $60,000, and that's the one they want to make the offer on, they go through our application process, and we can do a soft second for the difference. So Cheryl can lead them through that along with Jen's assistance. Oftentimes they do need credit counseling, but we're seeing 6 months or less typically can get the job done, unless they're totally really not ever going to get a loan. They don't have the income or whatever it may be. So people who are looking, your lower income buyers can do that. It doesn't even have to be lower income. We have some set asides we have to meet for very low income, but those people we're pretty much getting on our own. So any buyer that might be interested in these houses, they're going to be very low maintenance. They're not going to need anything for a long time. You need to let them see these homes. Once we get a realtor in there and they see them, they're like, wow, I want to bring everybody here to see it. And a lot of people fit into that income criteria. It's not just for low income. So we do a soft second. We typically are using Vesta Title. I'm sure Express is very good, but Vesta is our title company of record right now. As far as appraisals, we have 3 companies that we rotate through or use, right? We still have 3, and we've gone out for proposals on that as well, or quotes rather. So we are able to get our appraisals done. What we do is, when we want to buy one, if you're bringing one forward for us to purchase, We'll go do a little due diligence. We wanna go look at it and make sure there's nothing major or that we're gonna have to knock it down or something like that. I have actually bought some that needed to be knocked down, and then the county bought it from my program and knocked it down. And they're gonna use it for DRA or something like that. So we're still interested, we wanna look at it, but there may be another avenue that we take. But once we're ready, we say, yes, we wanna buy it, we can fix this, and so on and so forth. We're then gonna get an appraisal once we're in contract, we're gonna get an appraisal, and we can only pay the lesser of whatever was offered, whatever the list price was, or 1% below our appraisal. So there has to be an addendum in there to adjust for that, and that hasn't been coming up that much. Appraisals are coming up, so we haven't had to do that in a while. When we first started, we were doing that constantly. So that's how that works. We can close very quickly. We can wire funds within 2 days of clear to close. We've got one that we're probably going to do within 2 weeks. We're going to close within 2 weeks.
Probably next week.
Yeah, and that'll be the fastest we've ever done it. We're working directly with a bank on that one. So then we buy it, we rehab it, so on and so forth. Then once we list it, it'll get listed with Cheryl's group. And buyers can go see, and realtors, whatever you want to do is fine. And the only offer we'll accept is the asking price, and that's part of the stabilization part of it. We're not there to negotiate. We want it to sell for that price. We want it to be on the books that way to bring all the other values up that are around it. In the end, it can really work out for a buyer. For instance, if somebody bought something for $50,000 and they were only able to bring 40 to the table, and we put the soft second on for the difference, 10, it'll be more than that because we'll wrap some other costs in there. We're going to have that note for 20 years. That's the affordability period for this program. If they live in that house for the 20 years, that $10,000 or whatever that amount was gets forgiven. If they try to sell, it never prorates. We have to be made whole again. We need the money back in full. However, if property values are going to go up and that $50,000 house in 5 years is going to be worth $75,000, it's no problem for them to give us our 10 back. They're still ahead of the game and they still have equity because it's still going to be the best house on the street, perhaps, or close. So that's where we're coming from on that. Yes?
So payments aren't made on the 10 until the original mortgage is satisfied?
No payments are made on the soft second.
Okay.
Yeah, they're zero interest, zero payments. That note will sit there for the 20 years and then it will go away, or it won't mean anything after the 20 years. But if they try to sell,
Gotcha.
transfer ownership, then we have to be made whole. We don't prorate it out. The exact amount that's on that will be, has to be
And our
paid back to
purchase
us.
price is always listed after our second appraisal occurs after the rehab. So
That's
it's not like we're, profiting, we're not.
Yeah,
We
as far as
actually-
the list price, how we have to do that is, it has to be the lesser of the two, either what our final appraisal is, or how much we have into it. So what I paid for it and what I did with rehab. So far, appraisal is always less than what we have into it. So they're getting way more house than what they're paying for.
And are lenders okay with this, with the borrower having a soft second? I mean, will it qualify for USDA, VA, and any type of loan?
Yes, but some banks won't do it. Suncoast Federal Credit Union, we are running into problems because they don't want to take the time to read the guts of the soft second. But yes, I've had USDA, VA,
FHA.
FHA, yeah. Uh-huh.
We want people to shop it out. We want them to go to more than one place and look for a loan. We're finding that it is making a difference. We have some brokers that are really familiar with our program. Some better than others. I'm not going to name names, but Cheryl Lambert's very familiar with the brokers that
Call
are.
me and I'll tell you.
Yeah, it's good to know who to perhaps let people know about. We're not going to recommend anyone, and we don't do that. We also require that they take the HUD-approved first-time homebuyers course, which we hold on a Saturday on every couple months.
Quarterly, yeah.
We're doing quarterly now.
Yeah.
We could beef it up if we need to, but we've sold a lot of our properties. But we do have one this Saturday, next Saturday, the 26th, 8 to 4, is that it?
8:30 to 4:30.
8:30 to 4:30, you can tell I go to these a lot. I used to, Joan, I'm like, you have it. So Jen or one of my staff, Pat Wilkerson, will be there, and I'll talk about Pat in a minute. Cheryl is always there to help out and helps us coordinate it. And people can pre-register. We prefer that they do. We usually have a pizza lunch sponsor, or we always do, right?
We always do.
We always do.
Where's
So
the title girls? Did they leave? They left, okay.
they left the snacks and off they went.
Well, because they could speak at the class.
Yeah, they could.
This class is, yeah.
So we invite outside vendors to come and speak at that, to give the different modules. So there's a home inspector there, a lender, a title company. You know, we want to bring everybody to the table, and then we speak specifically about our program and how it works. We're finding that a lot of people aren't, because it's a county program, we want the buyers to understand that this house is theirs, just like if they bought it from somebody in the private sector. They need to get that inspection, they need to understand what happened at inspection and ask us to make changes before we close. Because I'm not gonna go back and make these changes, that some of the things I'm being asked for. My washer didn't drain right, well, it's brand new, you know, you need to take care of that, you're a homeowner now.
My light bulb's out in the closet.
Yeah. The thresholds are too high on my doorways. Okay, so different things get asked of us. We wanna make sure that they understand we don't own the house anymore. It's theirs, and I don't want any of these houses back. We want them to be successful borrowers. We want that to stabilize the neighborhood as well. So that's all I have on NSP. You guys have any questions about that one, or if you think of any, we can go back to it. This sort of tells the story right here, so this is really good. I love
That's a
our
good
brochure.
brochure.
So if we have a buyer that, like you said, can only be qualified for a certain amount, how do we get them to your program? I mean, how do we get them, well, I guess you guys are gonna talk about SHIP and all those other things, right?
Right.
Okay.
All right, for
Oh,
NSP
wait.
though, they can go on the website and get our application and print that out and fill it out.
Okay,
It's very much like what they're gonna have to have done at the bank, so they've already got all those documents all together.
okay, for the soft second, right?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, they have to apply to the NSP program, take the 8-hour class, and after that, you know, we sign off on their application or not. Very few have I turned down, and usually it's because they still need to do a few more things before I can proceed.
Yeah, and they do have to come to the, like, when they do fill out the application and submit it, they already have to have a bank approval. Right.
Do we want that desk?
Yeah, it's a desktop underwriter is the requirement, instead of just a pre-approval.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
Yeah, because the pre-approvals,
right.
what was, and that's something I need to explain. We don't want them getting pre-approved to buy one of our specific houses. We want them to come to the table with what's the maximum allowable amount that they can get a loan for, just like most of us would do. You go find out, all right, I'm going to look for a house, how much will I get? I don't want to see where a broker or a lender has said, oh, you're trying to buy this house for $60,000, I'll give you 40. No, I don't want to see any of my addresses on any of these letters. I'll kick it back in a heartbeat and say, go to 3 more lenders. I want to see them do it right, because what we found was, we get to the closing table, and everything was about this particular property. They didn't really have pre-approval for an amount. They had pre-approval for that property because they thought I was gonna throw in whatever they needed. That's not how it works. Okay, so, am I saying that right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's been a big hiccup for us over the years. And there's some brokers that,
Our loan is only gonna be used to close the gap, not the other way around, because I think that's what a lot of lenders tried to do.
right, and there's still one out there that's attempting to, but I'm quick to correct that. All right, let's keep going. On the talking point sheet, LIHEAP, that's over to the right of where the NSP was, Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. That is for low income folks who are at 150% or below poverty guidelines. That one's not related to area median income directly. So a household of 1 could earn up to $17,505. If I jump up to 4 people in a household, they could earn up to $35,775 to get that benefit. What we can do there is pay people's deposit for their electric. This could be for rental or wherever they're moving, doesn't matter. And we can pay past due bills or just a regular bill that isn't past due. The three big dogs that we work with is Seiko, Sumter Electric with Lacucci, and Duke Energy. We do have information on the website on that, but right now we do have a new, I feel this is an old one. It is. You know the number?
Negative.
Okay. We have a phone number that people can call for that. It's a toll-free number to set up an appointment. I am going to ask you to write that on there as soon as I dig it out of my voice. It's an IVR, Interactive Voice Response System. The number for that is 855-806-9648. They can call that pretty much 24 hours a day to set up an appointment to come see us. We don't accept walk-ins, but this is something to share with family, friends, neighbors, not necessarily your home buyers. Hopefully they are able to get their electric turned on. If not, maybe they shouldn't be in the market right now. So it's a good program, and there, you know, it's different requirements of what they have to bring in for us, and all that is reviewed for them. Okay. Over to the right of that, we have Section 8 rental assistance. Here in Citrus County, we have the Housing Choice Voucher Program. We don't have project-based Section 8, where you may think of in the cities where those sort of apartment-type looking things that aren't so great. Here in Citrus, we don't own these properties. We have a couple people in with Section 8 money in some of our rentals, but they're not project-based. Right now, I'm not accepting any applications for that. That is the bulk of the calls that Housing Services receives right now is for rental assistance. People are still hurting greatly. It's still an issue. I don't have any funds for that. But I did want you to know about it and be aware of it. It is in our community here. Within the next year, I do expect to open up for preliminary applications for Section 8. Again, if you know any neighbors, friends, family, if they see an advertisement for Section 8 is opening up for application and you think they might be eligible, they need to put in for that preliminary application. And I tell you that because last time I opened it, we opened it for 11 days in 2011, 10 days in 2011, and it was online only. We didn't accept walk-ins. We advertised it pretty well, got it out to all the social service providers. We had libraries helping people do it online and things like that. We had 622 applications in 10 days for this. At that time, I was only serving about 25 new vouchers per month, so that meant that that was a 26-year waiting list. But here we are about 4 years later, and we've whittled that down. People either weren't eligible when they came to the top of the list, or they found other means and they don't need it anymore, or they didn't respond when we purge our list every year. We do a mailing, say, are you still living where you said you're living, and you still need this program. If they don't get back to us, we take them off the list. And that's something else for people to know. If you know anybody who gets on that list, they need to respond when we tell them to, once a year. That's all they have to do. Once you have a Housing Choice Voucher, what we do is we pay housing assistance payments, HAP is what we call it. And we pay it directly to the landlord, property manager, whoever that is, whoever they're supposed to pay their rent to. The occupant's family pays 30% of their income, or a minimum rent of at least $50. So we look at rent reasonableness, affordability, and we have payment standards of how much rent we're willing to pay for different size and types of apartments, and we provide that to landlords as needed. If you know any landlords, or if you yourself want to have any properties considered to be a Section 8 occupied rental, you can go to gosection8.com and list your property. We used to try to maintain all the landlords that wanted us to keep track of their apartment or their house, and it was just impossible, and it wasn't fair. So we tell all the landlords the same thing, go ahead and list it there. Then what happens is if one of our prospective tenants finds your place and gets with you and says, oh, I have a Section 8 voucher, then there will be arrangements to be made for us to do a HQS, Housing Quality Standards Inspection. None of it is harsh. It's all things you should already have in place in your property. If you don't, you need to fix it anyway. It doesn't matter whether it's one of our tenants or not. Different things we come across might be outlets not working, trip hazards, torn carpet, things like that.
Smoke
Washing machines running off grade, no, you need to have plumbing, code violation type things, we're gonna make you fix. So, it's not a big deal though, and we give time for people to do that.
Smoke detectors. is like-
Smoke detectors, very important, and everybody should have that, so. We don't, it's not usually a big deal, people are all panicked and they want me to pre-approve, I'm like, no, if you get a tenant, we'll come look at it. But, you know, the housing quality standards can be found on the HUD.gov website, just put in HQS and you'll see the checklist, it's not that big. I have about 100 people still on the waiting list. I do want to share with you that back when I started with Housing Services, we had 103 vouchers. We do get the funds directly from HUD. It was about $500,000 or $600,000 at the time that we would receive in our annual contract. 3 years ago, Sumter County decided that they did no longer wanted to administer their Section 8 program. Their Board of County Commissioners and manager made that decision, and so HUD was searching for a neighboring county to take over their vouchers. They had 130 vouchers, and Citrus County was a high-performing agency, and we were offered that opportunity, so I said yes, because I had 622 people saying they needed rent assistance. And if you don't assist them, they're not leaving, they're still gonna live here, and I'm sorry, somewhat be a burden on other resources and things. We do want to stabilize families with this program, and it does work. We do have people that work their way up and make enough income that they don't need the program anymore, and it opens up a voucher. I will tell you, the majority of our folks, Citrus County, more than 50% are seniors who are on disability. So if we don't house them with these funds, who's going to? If they end up in nursing homes, the county is still mandated to pay for their nursing home care costs. The county is, it doesn't come from the federal government. So some people have a problem with Section 8. In this community, it works, it saves us a lot of heartache in other ways that we may not see. Like any program, there are some people that maybe aren't deserving, or maybe there are other things that they could be doing to change their path. We do our best to filter through that and make everybody aware. But I will tell you, you know, we now have 233 vouchers. We're housing about 240 families because we also get portables in from other parts of the country. These are portable vouchers, they can live wherever they want. So, and our funding is about $1 million for that annually for Citrus County. So, below that is the Shelter Plus Care Program. Right now I'm serving 14 rental vouchers with about $90,000, not the 130 that's there. And that is somewhat similar to Section 8, where we pay their rent or a portion of their rent therein. And these are folks who are homeless, and they have to be homeless on the time that we accept them into the program and get them housed. And they also have to agree to a case management plan with the centers. They're our in-kind provider. They provide the services, help these people get housed, and help them get to the point where they can live independently and self-sustain. So we have 14 families that are using that right now. Referrals for that, we don't really accept them except from another social services provider. They kind of know what eligibility we need. We do get a good amount of referrals and see those through to fruition. Hardest hit. I'm going to skip Community Development Block Grant. I don't have that right now, and if I do, you all would be made aware of it. It'll be publicized and so on and so forth. We haven't heard whether our application got approved that we submitted, but I don't. Even if we do get approved, our needs score did not score high enough for us to get funded, so I'm not going to get that one this year, it doesn't look like. Hardest hit, there are two programs. One is the hardest hit mortgage assistance and then the principal reduction program. For the mortgage assistance, you can pretty much read what it says there. This one's kind of a tough fit. It's for people who are unemployed or underemployed through no fault of their own. They can be in arrears, or they could be just struggling. They're making it meet, but they're not going to be able to in a short period of time. One example of a participant for that program would be somebody who, let's say they used to work in the construction industry, made really good money, bought a house, you know, not even at the top of their means, whatever, have a pretty, you know, a decent mortgage, and now they're working as a cashier somewhere, making about half what they were making. So they're struggling to make things meet. It's not their fault that they got laid off in the construction industry and that the economy had a downfall. So it has to be through no fault of their own. Now, if it's the person who said, I'm gonna quit my job so I can take care of my mom because she's ill, that was a choice. Or if it's even for their medical, believe it or not, that doesn't, that is not through no fault of their own. So that's the hard one with that one, finding somebody who fits that unemployed or underemployed, okay? Typically, if somebody was able to collect unemployment, they can usually fit into that, usually, but not always. I do want you guys to understand the principal reduction program. Where it says closed until further notice, cross that out. Not true, it's open right now. It had opened up for 3 days, did it take them? It opened up for 3 days when it first started about a year, well, almost a year ago. And these funds are from the big 5 banks, the National Mortgage Settlement. Our Attorney General for the state, Pam Bondi, went to bat with 48, I think it was 48 states all told, went into this lawsuit against the Chase and Bank of America and whoever the other 3 were, I can't remember, but they all had to pay this $55 billion fine or fee or settlement to the different states. So Citrus County got about 300 million or something to that effect, 50 million, I can't even remember. It's just a ridiculous sum of money that we got. And some of it is going into this principal reduction program. It also went into the hardest hit, but more so into the principal reduction program. Right now that is open. People can apply for that. I'm sorry that the website isn't there. I have it, I don't have it on there. If you Google hardest hit principal reduction,
Or it's on our website.
or it's on our website. Is it correct on our website? It is, because we're in the middle of updating our website. That's where people can go to apply for that. And there's a code that they need to use if they want to be served by Citrus County, and that's over on the left under hardest hit mortgage. If you look under the mortgage assistance, there's a code 14071. If they go ahead and apply online to either of these programs, they want to use that code if they would like to be served locally. Pat Wilkerson is one of my staff. She's beloved by all if you know her. She's always been our SHIP housing counselor and has taken on this program as well. She's been with the county over 11 years and is familiar with a lot of the members of this organization. So she oversees that. If they don't care to be served by somebody in Citrus, they don't need to put that code in. They might get served by us anyway or get assigned to us. But I think it's important that people realize they could get assigned to somebody down in Miami and be faxing and emailing and sending paperwork a long ways away, where Pat is right here locally at the Citrus County Resource Center and the Housing Services offices. If you have questions about that, Pat's number is on the left there, the 527-7526. They can call her about it if they'd like. Typically though, if they go ahead and put what they know into the system, it'll send me an email, I assign it to Pat, and then she gets back to them within 48 hours usually. So that program is significant. If somebody's loan to value ratio, they're underwater, 125% or more, this is the program for them, but they have to be current on their mortgage. They can have some lates, but it's limited. So it can be no more than 2 lates in 24 months, no more than 2 30-day lates in 24 months, and no more than 2 60 days in 30, I don't remember, but they can have some lates, but this is for the people who are plugging along, not walking away. I know a lot of people that have walked away. They're like, woohoo, I'm going to be able to buy a house in a year now. They're going to do it all over again. However, this is for those people that are sticking it out, doing the best they can. We are closing, I think she had a closing today, where a check will be written directly to this person's bank against their principal mortgage for $50,000. Kind of bringing that principal balance down for them, $50,000, because they were a victim of these banks that were doing the robo-signing and inflated pricing, and they were part of that whole scenario. So that program is hugely important. It is on the website. It's important that you tell all your friends, family, and neighbors. Some people are embarrassed to tell you that they're underwater, and it's really none of our business. I don't couch it to that people that way. What I do is I put it in an email and I just send it. By the way, I got this cool program I learned about. Please send this to all your family, friends, and neighbors. And, you know, I do get to see the list of who's asking for this assistance. And, you know, I can tell there are some people in there that would be very uncomfortable having that discussion. So I encourage you to spread that word and let people know about it. State Housing Initiative Partnership Program, SHIP. I hope you've all heard of SHIP. SHIP funding comes from dock stamps, and that is something that this Realtors Association has fought tooth and nail for and was successful. Cheryl was instrumental in that, along with Ron Lieberman, who's a local as well, who is now the state president of the State Builders Association, is that what they're called? And Cheryl and Ron Lieberman both serve on the Citrus County Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, AHAC, also known as AHAC. And AHAC was created because of the SHIP funding that we get. Back in its heyday, probably 7 years ago, we would receive 1.4 to 1.6 million every year, and you had 3 years to spend that out. And it could be used for first-time home buyers, home repair, utility connections, emergency repair, and also to help with affordable housing developments get built. We partner with Florida Low Income Housing at the time, that's now Community Housing Partners. Marina Del Rey was a project that had a proposal with us. Heron Woods, I think we helped with. I know we did because I saw the book yesterday. Heron Woods, Nature Walk. Some of those are properties that were partnered with the SHIP program. But for you all, just so you know, if people need home repairs, we're trying to fix code violations and health and safety issues. We're not there to remodel and make it look all pretty. So if it's that senior who just can't afford to get that roof done, that's something we can help with. And the income levels for that, for the home repair, if it's an emergency repair, they can be up to 80% of area median income. And if it's rehab, they have to be very low income, which is 50% of area median income. So the emergency repair, they can get up to $9,500 in emergency repair. We usually can get a roof and an AC done within that $9,500, usually. Depends on how big their house is. Some people have way too big of a house and their roof is gonna be $6,000, $7,000, and we can't help them with anything else. If it's rehab, we can do up to $25,000 in rehab. Both of these have loans associated with it, but they're all zero payments, 0% interest, and they defer over the course of however many years. Emergency repairs is much shorter. I think it might be 5 years, and rehab I think is 15. But all of that is reviewed with the homeowner so that they know. Right now, we are not funding any first-time home buyer money. The state, in its wisdom, took some of these dock stamps and put that money in a different bucket, and it's being given out directly to other programs. So I'm not going to duplicate that service. So there are different lenders that are more familiar with it and that I would direct people to, and Jen can help with that, right? We don't know. No, it's sort of a big secret.
Yeah, it is.
Where that money
Where
went.
that money is.
But different banks, know how to find that. We don't have any lenders here, do we? No, we need to find out more. Every year I go through this, and I get good answers, and then somebody goes and asks for that loan, and oh, that program's done. So they changed the name of it a lot. On occasion, we actually do housing replacement. If somebody comes to us and needs repair, rehab, I do budget for a couple replacements. We hadn't done any for quite a while, but we are working on 2 this year. And what that means is they came to us, they wanted rehab, but their house it wasn't worth it to rehab it. It was more than 50% of the value to rehab it. So we would knock it down and build them another one. We've actually been able to do that and build houses for $65,000. Not bad. So that's less than getting a Habitat house. Habitat costs more than that. We do help with Habitat. This year I've proposed not just Habitat, but other affordable housing providers in my budget for SHIP. The AHAC has agreed, now it's going in front of the Board of County Commissioners, to provide up to 15 families with $10,000 worth of assistance for Habitat or Nature Coast Affordable Housing. And Key Training actually wants to get on board with that because they have some people that would be interested in that sort of assistance. So that's where we are with SHIP. Utility connection assistance. There are mandatory water and sewer connections that are required right now in Crystal River. It could happen anywhere. Homosassa, they had the big area that they did. Right now it's area 114, 112 and 113 are done in Crystal River, but 114, the public hearings are coming up in July, and there are people that are gonna be mandated to hook up to sewer and water. So if they fall into the low income, it's 80% of area median income to be eligible for assistance with that. So for a household of one, $26,050 per year maximum. If we go to a household of four, $37,200 household income maximum. So if you know anyone in that Crystal River area that might need that assistance, they can certainly call our office and get pre-screened and see if they're even gonna be able to do that. And what questions do you all have for me?
Would in that particular situation, would the utilities be referring to you? People that are calling and complaining about the cost of hooking up to the water and sewer?
There, yes, the division that is working on this is under the county government as well. And when it's on the board of public hearing, in their handout, in the mailing that they send to everybody, I do have a part of that I've given them all this information. So it is in their information, where it's a 2-page document that everybody is mailed, that is required to do this, and it does have this in there.
Yeah, I can see where there would be some people that just couldn't afford it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, it's been a struggle for some people. Then other people thought they were really low income, and when they see what low income is in our county, they're like, oh, you know, they might have been low income where they were, up north or something, and then they move here, and they're like, wow, I'm wealthy. Yeah. Which is, you know, an eye-opener, but that's how it is with the somewhat transient population we have here. So anyway, I want to point out again, we have these homes for sale, and, you know, feel free to go look at those. Also, one other handout that I gave you is the affordable housing complexes throughout Citrus County. Some of these do have some Section 8 money, but I will tell you, all of them have some subsidized units, be it through USDA or HUD or however that works. So when people call me for rental assistance, I encourage them to call the appropriate complexes for their family makeup. Some of these are seniors, some of these are bigger family units, that sort of thing. But that's where I redirect people. And there are waiting lists and things like that. The one thing that I find with people that need that list is they've waited till the last minute. They knew this was coming. They knew that, you know, somebody was going to be moving out of their house, that they wouldn't be able to afford it or whatever it is. I, you know, encourage people, don't wait till the last minute. Don't call me and say you have to move on the 1st and today's the 15th. It's not going to happen. You need to call a friend or a neighbor, and then you need to call all of these and see what they can do for you, okay? But that's what we send people for that. Any more questions? Yeah.
The rental reduction program, is there a time limit that that person can sell their house after they've received help? to
Good
not be in the
question.
water anymore?
There is a note put on their house, and it's forgiven approximately 5 years after closing.
And then if they.
And it does prorate down every year.
Okay.
It does. So that's like free money. That's an excellent program. You know, people are eligible, because even if you stay in your house 3 years and you gotta pay back some of it, you're still well ahead of the game. And it reduces your mortgage payment, so you get back on your feet. Yes.
Tell me again about the Sumter County thing. They're not doing that anymore, so they're referring those people to you, or?
That's a good point, yeah. Sumter County, there are Florida mandates that every county must provide some sort of affordable housing. So they still have to do that, and how they're working it is, their developers are supposed to say, okay, I'm gonna develop this neighborhood or community, and this many units are gonna be affordable housing, or they have to pay the county an equal sum of money. Right now, Sumter County, it's my understanding, I'm not up on everything they have there, that they owe millions or hundreds of thousands? Hundreds of thousands of dollars to the county government, or they need to pony up. The developers need to pony up. So they still have, they're not referred to us, because if they're not already on my waiting list, then I can't serve them anyway. And Citrus County residents get preference over anyone else. So when I do open my waiting list up again, they could apply, but, you know, I'm still serving 70 people in Sumter County. And as,
Already?
yeah, when we got it, we had over 100, we were serving 100 people, and as they drop off the program, those vouchers become ours, and they serve Citrus County residents. I don't move them here. If they want to, they can, but that's the law.
But you serve them there, I mean, they.
Yeah, we have somebody who goes over every week and does appointments, and we do inspections there, but it's whittled down with, you know, almost 50 of them have already come off our list.
So basically, they're just letting that to die off?
Yeah.
For that county?
You know, there are regrets. They moved very quickly when they did this. I don't think they understood the statutes.
Well, they're overwhelming the villages,
Yes,
they don't have time to mess with this.
right. But they still have to meet the mandates, and
Yeah.
that's coming to life.
And all the people working in the villages were all the people on Section 8. So they're losing all their,
So, you know, it's somebody else's government. I don't follow it that closely, but that's my understanding. The community services sector over there, social services, did not realize this was happening because they really, it seems to me they didn't have a good relationship with the government and didn't understand this was happening until it was too late. I belong to the Mid-Florida Homeless Coalition, which is a 4-county continuum of care, and Sumter is part of that. And none of them in that homeless coalition knew that we were getting these vouchers, and I'm at meetings saying it, and yay for Citrus, because it more than doubled our funding, but they were like, what are you talking about? I said, you need to follow your BOCC.
And is that why that you're being viewed as successful at what you're doing, because the other counties are like, it's too much trouble, or follow with it, or somebody?
I don't think so.
You know, like the Miami people, you said there's a few counties.
Yeah, it depends on which program. You know, we're successful in our NSP program because we did it different than what a lot of others did, because actually we were behind the 8 ball.
Well, or
So
you did it, some of the other counties just didn't do it.
Right, they just didn't
Dropped
do
the
it.
ball.
Depends on which program you're talking about. We're a high-performing agency, which is a HUD term for Section 8, because we get all our stuff in on time, and because we're meeting the criteria that we need to meet. And that's why they even looked at us for the funding, the Sumter County funding. It was quite shocking, actually. It sent ripples through the state when Sumter did that, but they moved very quickly. They did it in 2 board meetings, and it was too late. And, you know, they signed a contract with us. They actually pay for our office space, our office furniture, our phone line, our electric. We don't pay a dime to be in their office space, and the agreement is for 20 years.
Okay.
So we crafted it in such a way, you know, I told our attorney what my expectations were, and he said, okay, and we crafted it that way, and they're living up to it. They keep moving us, but that's okay. Just tell us what address to
So
do.
in essence, you're taking on the project of doing what they were supposed to do, but yet you're running it.
Yes.
So you're Citrus, and then you're also like a branch office, if you will,
Right.
in Sumter County.
But the difference is, as a voucher, as the 130 families that were being served there with these vouchers, as those terminate and they go off the program, the voucher now serves a Citrus County resident. So I've already gotten 50 vouchers in 3 years.
Awesome.
Okay, so that's, you know, it's not like we're gonna be over there forever. I projected 20 to 26 years to get that 70 done. And we may have some little old lady who lives to be 130, and we're gonna drive over there every year and do her re-examination every year. It's not a huge burden administratively, because we're already doing it here.
Yeah. So you're not actively looking to do other types of programs over there?
No,
Okay.
absolutely not. I serve Citrus County.
Yeah.
You know, this was something that AHAC and Ron Lieberman and some of the other leadership I had on the committee at that time looked at closely and questioned me closely. We had all different demographics of the political world at the table for that. And I advocated for it because in the end, when I had 622 families all wanting 103 vouchers, the answer was a no-brainer for us. And it funded another full-time staff person. We already had the space. And, you know, we moved forward. It was unanimous. Any other questions, thoughts, suggestions? Cheryl, anything to add? All right, NSP guru. And Jennifer? All right.
Now, I will say Citrus County, I'm involved in NSP and other counties. And Citrus County absolutely is top-notch on how they've laid it out, designed it, rolled it out. Makes it very easy. When you go to different counties, there's different regulations and different governments, and so they've done it differently. But at the end of the day, the requirements for the buyer is still the same. So the grant is the grant. And I encourage agents all the time to come to these first-time buyer classes, because these classes have grown from 20 and 30 to above 50.
We're
And
about
so-
50 already for this one.
Yeah, and I've got 5 more people to register, so, I mean, they're there. So if you're looking for some business and you wanna take the time to learn the NSP, I'll teach you, so.
We don't allow any vendors to solicit in those meetings. We
Right.
don't want you handing out your business card. You can certainly sit as a student and build relationships just like you would at the bowling alley. But we don't want any one person handing out cards or setting out their pamphlets, no matter home builder or whatever you are. We don't do that. But
So basically, I, would identify realtors in the room and say, go see them at Brady's, so.
okay. All right. One other thing I'll add to what Cheryl was saying, one of the issues, Cheryl works in 3 counties, or has Marion County and Hernando County. She's familiar with their NSP programs. And something that we've seen is their model was to use consultants, which the county had when I first started with housing. And we did use them, and we phased them out as quickly as I could. It took me 2.5 years so that we could do it in-house, knowing that the funding would eventually peter out and that we would just be recycling funds. We've gotten in close to $1 million in recaptured funds. From when we sell them, we buy more. So that's how we've done the 50. But these other counties have continued to use the model to use outside consultants who are still getting their piece of those funds. And that seems to be the issue.
Huge piece,
Yeah, and
I was gonna ask what size of the piece.
huge piece.
Huge.
10% at least, plus project delivery costs. Sometimes it's usually about 20%. So of our initial 4 million awards,
Yeah.
that's pretty close to what I had to give up. But anything new coming in, no more. That went directly to our admin costs. And, or it went back into the program. We actually have some admin funds that we could have used for salaries, and we're actually gonna put it into a house instead. So we can spend it out and get NSP 1 closed. That was the other problem with NSP. You can't close it out until every home is occupied, and
And you've met the national objective.
you've met the national objectives. So it's taken HUD and the state 2 years to tell us how to close out, and we're hoping at the end of August
Right.
to be one of the first. I don't know if anybody has closed out NSP 1 yet. Nobody we know. So we're gonna be the first, we hope, and so we'll be up on that DS again. So, yay! So, all right, I don't have anything else. I really appreciate all your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the information.
Okay. Anything you ever need, let me know. My number is not on this. My direct line is
Smart.
527 7528. I'm more of an email gal because, of course, like you, it's in my pocket and I can see it all day, all night. Phone calls I can't always take. So, all right. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you.
We need to shut that off.
I wanted to ask about the thing that you're doing tomorrow, some event tomorrow, correct? Or is it
Oh,
next
the
Saturday?
The fire thing?
Yeah, it's,
Or,
You
it's
said
not,
you had some people, you had the Citrus Chronicle.
yes,
Did you talk to the news?
Bay News.
Yeah.